And this is This Week in Car Audio. Tune in, tune in, tune in, tune in. This Week in Car Audio. Tune in, tune in, tune in. We'll be talking about bass, talking about chips, talking about rings. You ain't got them, zip your lip. You got a problem you haven't found, check your grounds. The show about to start. Tune in, 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 tune in. This Week in Car Audio. Yeah. Tune in. This Week in Car Audio.
Welcome to This Week in Car Audio with your host, the Judge, Doug Stockton, co-hosted by Dave, Mr. No Show Bradshaw. What's good, Dave?
Yo, I'm here. I showed up to this.
That's because it was in your at your house. So, and it looks like you're at home, not at the shop today. Dave,
I'm actually at work still in my office.
At work in your office? Oh, you got a blurred background.
Yep.
Yeah. So, hey, what's the car audio life looking like for you right now? Upcoming shows, whatnot?
Just getting ready for this season, pretty much, the whole team.
Okay.
We're all doing various things right now. Just a lot of upgrades. It's constant upgrades in car audio.
Constant. Yeah, I understand that. I'm sharing to a couple of groups right now. New Mexico's Loudest, DB Drag, all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, so you guys intend to support Jose Ramos and stuff?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. We got to support pretty much everybody that's out here. Plus, we need all the shows we can get.
Yep. I'm actually going to work with Jose and get him the Reno locations too.
Nice.
Yeah. So, no, not bad. We're trying to get him a bunch of shows this year, which would be really cool. I really want to see it grow with Jose. And, we'll start off by trying to get him on the dang show, but, his dad's been sick and whatnot. So, almost done sharing here. Bam, base race is the last one. There we go. I'm all shared out. All right. Anyway, want to say thank you to our sponsors of the show today. We have E-Box Design and Install and Badass Sounds by Steve Bass. So that's who we got. That's who we got as sponsors. If you get the opportunity, please support those who support the things that you guys like. All right. So let's introduce our guest today. I got Justin Stolman in the chat with the yo-yo-yos again. This is my brother-in-law, 6-time Grammy Award winner, right, Eddie?
Emmy
Award winners.
Grammy's the other one.
Grammy's whatever. Why don't you tell people so I don't screw up what your accolades are?
Won a little stack of Emmys. Now I'm saying Grammys. You messed me up. Stack of Emmys.
I'm just saying, when I went to his house, he had one on the floor.
They make good doorstops. They're really good
for
that. I was always saying that I should cut one up, make it into some jewelry.
So what else you got?
Emmys. I produced a lot of metal bands. Produced Anthrax and hard rock bands, Fuel, Swampy Soul, El Nino. Lots of metal. If you're into the metal, then I did it.
All right. So the reason I brought Dave Bradshaw on today is because Dave himself had done some producing. Why don't you tell us about what you did, Dave?
Nothing on this guy's level. I mean, as far as I was never nominated for an Emmy. I worked with a lot of hip hop. I used to work with a guy named Dwayne Wiggins. You guys probably know him as Tony Tone.
Yeah.
Worked in West Oakland. I did like 2 shorts album. Beyonce, actually, Destiny's Child's album, first album was recorded at the House of Music there. I did some buffering on that album. I wasn't the executive producer, but I did a little mixing on that album years ago. Worked with a lot of artists at the Sacramento area. Some people, some are famous, but I worked with like Keek the Sneak. I worked with Be Legit. Worked with Brother Lynch. A lot of hip hop artists, been in the studio with The Game down in LA. Been around a lot of, but never on the Emmy on the big side.
Never on the big stage, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Never been. I've been on stage,. But not the big stages.
The media, the other stages.
Yeah, I've been in front of a crowd of like 5,000 people, with
It's a good crowd.
this,
Yeah.
but nothing like, what you do with the Emmy with those big crowds, having 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people out there, and it's just a speck of just heads all you see because it's so huge. But yeah, I've been on some cool stages. I had fun with it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Eddie just recently, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, hit 1 billion downloads for one of his songs.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I got 100 million downloads,
Okay.
and I have 500 million. So not quite a billion yet.
Okay.
but
100
but
million,
close.
that's what it was. 100 million.
500 million.
500 million. And what song was that?
Well, it's a few songs. It wasn't one
okay.
song.
Oh,
The one
okay.
that hit 100 million was "Bottom of the Bottle" by Smile Empty Soul.
Uh-huh.
That one hit 100 million.
You familiar with that song, Dave?
No, I have
Me
not.
either.
It was big a while ago and had a resurgence for various reasons, but it almost went platinum like 20 years ago and then came back.
Dang.
A lot of songs, I'll produce a song and all of a sudden, and it wasn't like that song was a hit song, but some songs are like album tracks and they'll find themselves in a video game, and all of a sudden, like a song that you never would have thought on a record, all of a sudden I'll look at my thing and it's got 20 million streams. It's like, whoa, like the record's like 20 years old, but that's what happens. They end up on a video game or some crazy playlist, and all of a sudden. And a lot of times those songs are like album tracks. They were never singles. They're like songs that barely made the record.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, that happened with that movie Stranger Things. It
Exactly.
reintroduced a bunch of music to a younger crowd that, started streaming it and whatnot, right?
Weirdly, Metallica made a resurgence. Not that they needed one, but weirdly, that last scene, I think it might have been one of the ending episodes where he's listening to a Metallica song. I forgot which one it is, but
I've never seen a single episode of Stranger Things, so
that's a cool show.
That's my favorite rock band of all time too, Metallica.
Very cool.
Enter the Sandman.
I saw one of their first gigs with Kirk Hammett when after Dave Mustaine and everything. I grew up in New York, so literally it was one of their first gigs with Kirk Hammett. They were opening a band called Raven, and I actually went to see Raven.
Wow.
And then people were like, "Oh, this band Metallica is opening up." I'm like, "Who are they?" And this club holds like 50 people. So I was like, "Oh, I should go get a Metallica record," because back in the day, like you didn't want to go see a concert and not know like every song from every band.
Yeah.
So I went and got a Metallica record and got myself a little versed in Metallica before I went to see that first Raven show.
I actually seen them play on accident. My girlfriend, when I was like 21, 22, she worked at Tower Records.
Oh wow!
And I picked her up and for lunch, and we were driving, and we came back. We seen the stage being just erected right there in the parking lot. And I said, "Hey, what's going on here?" I don't know. So I went to drop her off, turned her around. Metallica just pulled up with the stage, started playing right there in the parking lot of Tower Records.
That's great.
Sacramento?
Yeah, in Sacramento, right off Watt Avenue.
Yeah. Hey, one of our sponsors is finally back in the chat. He was out, missed like the last 2 weeks. Eric Hansen popping his head in. What's good, Eric? He's getting ready for Autorama. I wonder if he's still planning on driving up here for Autorama from Texas to compete at that show. And then, so another thing that Eddie told me he does is he makes, like for television shows, like Young Sheldon.
Young Sheldon?
Yeah. So he'll make little short music skits for the TV shows and whatnot.
Well, that's what I won the Emmys for, not for Young Sheldon, but for making music for television. I have right now, I'm in over 1,000 different TV shows. I have a little over 10,000 placements. About 700 placements in the NFL. If you watch football, CBS NFL, including the Super Bowl 4 or 5 times. Stuff in the Olympics. You name it. I'm in almost every TV show, which is fun because sometimes I'm just sitting around the house watching a TV show with my wife, and I'm like, that sounds really familiar. I think that's my music. And I'll like rewind. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my music.
And then you get your 5-cent check.
Then I get my 5-cent check. If I'm lucky, it's 6 cents. But yeah, it's a lot of times it's 5 cents.
Well, scoring for shows is definitely a good paying gig.
Yeah, no, I've been doing that a lot. I've been doing a lot of stuff on network shows and cable shows, Discovery Plus, Nat Geo. I'm doing a Netflix 4-part documentary right now on the history of MMA with a director that Sports Illustrated called the greatest combat sports director in the world. So he's my buddy. I'm scoring his movie right now. It's a great movie too. If you're into like MMA and UFC,
Yeah.
great movie about a lot of insights that I had never heard before.
Yeah, scoring takes a lot of skill to do.
Tiffany out of Bridgetown, Barbados says, nice to meet you, Eddie. Heard a lot about you. All good things, of course. So she's one of our regulars. She pops in every show, her and her husband.
Very cool.
Tristan and Tiffany, they're both out of Bridgetown, Barbados. So they keep inviting me there, but they don't ever they don't follow through. Just saying. Joel says, "Hey Dave, when are we going to tune your car?"
As soon as I get it back, we have to do some engine work to the little cube.
Is it
So,
up with what's his name? With Justin?
No, it's with Guy right now because Guy lives close to me and he works on Nissans.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to build this other car right now.
All right. So one of the things, this is a total departure from what we normally do on this podcast. And so I just thought it'd be interesting to get somebody who actually makes the type of music we listen, not necessarily the type, but type of music. And I asked Eddie to come on here. And so, Eddie, why don't you tell me what you were telling me about how any of this even relates to car audio? So,
well, it's funny because every time, when I mix records, we want to listen to it outside of the studio just to see how it'll translate outside of my room. Because, my studio is very treated and professional and everything actually sounds good in here. But the big thing is we call them car prints. We'll go outside with, at one point was a cassette, and then that turned into a CD. And now I actually bring an SD card. I have SD cards that I can put it into my car stereo, which is actually the best way because back in the day, especially when you're making high-profile records, you didn't want CDs living around in the world with mixes on it that weren't the final mix because you misplaced one, somebody comes into your studio, a friend of a friend, before you know it, one of those mixes is gone. So what one band used to do is they used to take the CD and stick it in the microwave for 1 second and microwave it, and it would get checked. The whole thing would get all, checkered. Like if you leave like, a guitar or something outside overnight, So we'd make car prints and you go out and listen to it in the car and, you make notes to yourself about what, because most people know their car better than almost anything.
Right.
So, your car stereo. So, a lot of times, especially if you're mixing an imperfect situation, you take that car print outside and it sounds horrible. You're like, whoa, like that, nowadays I listen, obviously I do car prints and I listen on the phone and I listen on a laptop because most people those are the most important mediums. I used to have my TV wired into my studio and I'd listen actually on my TV, but then believe it or not, I feel like that got less and less relevant because so many people listen on other mediums than a TV.
Mm-hmm. So, so when you're making these car prints, you're still doing them today, but so you just thumb drive or SD card. Now that preserves the quality pretty solid though, right? Or do you guys use high quality SD cards? You just use Costco? What?
No, the SD card isn't really the issue. It's how high the resolution is of the file I put on the SD card. One thing about an SD card is I could put a 24-bit 48K master on that card, but you're going to be listening to MP3s. So a lot of times I'll make my car print into an MP3, so it's closer to what you're going to be listening to. But one thing, if you do car prints, sometimes I'd email myself the car print onto my phone if I was going to be maybe a situation where I couldn't use an SD card. And you got to watch out, because some of those things, like I don't know if you're familiar with Hightail, but some of those file sharing services actually compress the sound and put a weird compression on it. And then you listen to like the MP3 on the SD drive and you're like, whoa, this version that I'm, using Bluetooth off my phone sounds very different.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little tricky. You can't, like back in the day, you could really guess how people were going to listen. Like you had a CD player and that was it, And then what we used to do too back in the day is you can get I don't know how to explain it, like a very short range internet radio. You can still do it with some things where I can take over a frequency just for like 50 feet. So sometimes we would do it where we go out in the car and turn on our car to see what it sound like over the radio, because that's a whole different beast. And then it's even more complicated because radio stations a lot of time have their own EQs and compressions. So sometimes you'll listen to a piece of music on one radio station and it doesn't sound the same on another radio station because the radio stations have their sound, if that makes sense. That's their brand, is their sound.
Yeah. Tristan wants to know, Eddie, do you use Pro Tools?
Luckily not. I have used Pro Tools many times in my life because most studios have it. So I had Pro Tools for a long time until they really started all the subscription stuff. And then I just got it so I could take files out of a big studio. But I use a program called Digital Performer. It's made by Mark of the Unicorn. Yeah. It used to be one of the big three, but now nobody's ever heard of it. It's not that. I've been using it for 30 years. So to me, it's like
an old program.
I could do tech support for that program at this point. I know it so well. Yeah. So I just don't have the time. But Digital Performer, the person that did the MIDI for Digital Performer did the MIDI for Pro Tools. So they're actually not that much different. They're very similar.
Okay.
I like the plugins on Digital Performer.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great program for scoring to picture. It's very easy to import the picture and to sync it up and to do all the things I need to do. Whereas, Pro Tools, I'd be a little lost.
Like a lot of things, like when I started with Cakewalk, and then when I went to the big studio, they had Digital Performer.
Oh, wow.
And we had, he had a 98 track board.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we were mixing off of. And then when I built my studio, I started off with Pro Tools 6.
Oh, wow.
But there's something that a lot of people don't know about music, how much goes into making. We just play it in the car audio scene. But like he was talking about the radio, right? Like when we used to mix and master, we wanted it on the radio, you also have to have it processed for radio edit, right? Radio volumes before you can submit it to the radios and things like that. There's a lot that goes into making the music versus playing it. And I know he's been around a lot longer than I have, but when we used to record, we used to walk around with VHS tapes called ADATs.
Uh-huh.
And that's how we recorded. Like today, you can just take a little USB and go load up your whole studio session, from where you left off, and boom. Before you have to walk around with the like a briefcase sometimes with a bunch of VHS sized tapes because those were like tracks 1 through 8.
Oh, those are the masters?
Yeah, they're technically the masters, but that's with how they were recording.
Okay. Yeah, did my screen freeze or something? It looked like I was mid-sentence.
You're very froze.
But you can hear me okay, though, right?
We can hear you fine. Yeah, if you touch your screen, it should unfreeze you.
I did touch it, and it didn't unfreeze me. I think that's my life.
That's your life? You're just frozen?
I'm just frozen.
But I know he can, talk about how music has evolved.
Yeah.
The ability now.
Well, the whole thing is that when I was coming up, so you can hear me okay?
Yes, sir. No issues.
When I was coming up in the business, like you couldn't you really couldn't do it in a home studio. Like you needed all the accoutrements of a recording studio, and usually recording studios are anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 a day.
Right.
So you had to have either some kind of record deal or some kind of thing. Nowadays, like it's really weird because it's like the best time to be a an artist and the worst time to be an artist. It's the best time to be an artist because you could put a song up on a streaming platform or a social media platform and become a celebrity overnight with no distribution, no record company, no anything, just worldwide distribution through a platform.
I mean, Justin
When
Bieber.
I was coming up, what's that?
Just like Justin Bieber.
Just like Justin Bieber, or that guy, the guy last night that I forgot his name, the one that got nominated for Best New Artist that does the flip off the piano. He totally became famous on TikTok. I mean, it's an amazing song, like he deserves it, but he became famous on TikTok. And now he's getting nominated for Best New Artist for a Grammy, So the thing is that, it's good and it's bad. There's a lot of music that you can actually hear right now that, with all due respect, you really shouldn't be able to hear. Because what happens is it floods the market. Like when things like MySpace came out, you were listening to people's first demo tape and first gig and now instead of having 10 records to listen to, you have 10,000 records to listen to. Yeah. So it's sort of like, you guys are into sports when you have the expansion teams. Yeah. I mean, that ends up lowering the whole quality of the whole, I don't want to say sport, but the whole thing, you know? So it's like, that's what happened in music with things like MySpace. People started releasing like their first ever gig in front of 20 people for like the whole world to see.
That I'm one of them.
Well, there you go.
My five best songs on MySpace. Oh man, that's funny. You brought back some memories with that one.
MySpace was a good time.
Yeah. Oh man, it was.
Well, you also think, right, there's no gatekeepers anymore for an opportunity to get in, right? Where if you weren't signed by Sun, by Motown, by whoever, right, back in the 60s, 70s, you didn't even have an opportunity to produce music.
Right.
So, that is one of the greatest things about the internet age, right, is you have an opportunity to create a voice and,
but at the same time,
he ain't
side of the coin, is some people should not have access to music.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what I was saying. Some people, there's music that you shouldn't be able to hear right now, and unfortunately, you can.
Yeah. There's so many people with no talent that are getting famous for.
Hey man,
I can auto-tune like the best of them.
Yeah, auto-tune saved. Yes, I don't know. Auto-tune saved me.
Honestly, it's funny because, like back in the day, I would take a vocal, run it to tape, run it through a harmonizer, a half step, not a half step, but a quarter step up and a quarter step down, and then you'd sit there with the lyric sheet and you'd go through the lyrics, and where the guy was singing sharp, I would use the detuned one to bring him up, and where he's singing flat, I use the detuned one to bring him down, or to bring him up at the opposite. So there was, even though it wasn't like as intuitive as auto-tune is, we were still pitching. I've been pitching vocals for 30 years. It's just part of the process. It just took longer and was harder to do, and you had to be able to know when the vocal was in and out. Now you don't need to know. Now you just let auto-tune show you when it's in and out.
Yeah, and then they also had the voice box that Zapp and Roger used to use.
That's right.
Oh yeah, well, lots of people use those. Peter Frampton, Aerosmith, Sweet Emotion.
Mm-hmm. I had one. It was fun to play with.
I still have one. I have a couple of them actually.
Nice.
You can make them. They're actually a very simple thing.
We should have known that before I bought mine years ago, because it wasn't cheap for me.
Well, if you don't make it right, you get electrocuted. So you're probably better off. I'm sure Doug could make one. Doug could probably make a bunch of them.
Yeah, I just do what I do. No, that's pretty cool. So, on this podcast, we talk more than just about car audio and stuff like that. So, why don't you tell me? Because I haven't heard this story yet. My wife may have heard it. How did you meet my sister?
Oh, God.
She was hanging out with Britney Spears and crap. So how did you end up meeting her?
So I was living in New York City and a little bored. So one of my friends wanted to start a rock night in a club. Mm-hmm. And I figured, I'll get you, I have a lot of friends that have, been very successful in the rock world. So I was like, well, if you want a rock night, I'll start inviting rock star friends of mine. So I started like promoting his club. And one day on MySpace, a girl emailed me and said, I have a girlfriend that's in town working and she wants to go out and hang out, but I just had a kid and I really don't have enough time to go out with her. You seem pretty cool. You're promoting some clubs and stuff. Would you like show my girlfriend around New York and let her into some clubs and just, hook her up with stuff? So I was like, yeah, whatever, and she said, oh, give her a call, whatever. So I looked at her picture on MySpace. I thought, oh, she looks pretty cute, and I called her up and she had just flew back to LA because I was living in New York. She was going back and forth every week to LA to New York for doing a show. So she's doing makeup on the show. So we talked literally for a week and we had all these mutual friends and we just talked nonstop. And by the time she came back to New York, I knew that she was going to be the one.
Dang. All right. Well, she's kind of got a New York attitude for sure.
Yes.
So for the people that do know her, she's a little feisty, as they say.
Very feisty. And she's also not getting picked up on the airport right now, and it's your fault.
I know. We already established that part. It's all my fault. I know. Yeah, I texted her. I said, hey, your husband's on tonight. And she goes, really? Oh, that must be why he's not picking me up today. I said, yep. So,
yep.
But no, that's awesome. So another thing, since I like to bowl, Eddie was telling me about how they kind of were like precursors into rock and bowl and this and that stuff in the bowling alley. So why don't you tell a little bit that story about you hanging out the bowling alley with your rock buddies?
Well, years ago, so I was promoting, this is a long, long time ago. I was promoting a lot of I was working at a lot of clubs in New York City as a doorman. I was the VIP doorman for a club called Limelight, which was pretty legendary back in the day. So at the time, I was working in nightclubs 6 nights a week. So myself and a couple of the other guys that were promoters and worked too, we were like the one night a week that we weren't working, we were like, let's do something completely out of the club scene where we won't see any of the people from any of the clubs and just have fun. So we started bowling. We started bowling where, it started out very friendly and then it turned out to be like bowling for dinner that night. And, we bowled in teams. And then people from the club scene found out that 4 pretty influential people in the club scene were bowling. So they come by just to assure that they were going to get in the clubs for free and get drink tickets and end up in the VIP room. So before you know it, there were like 50 people watching us bowl every night. And then they started getting their bowling alley. So now before you know it, we had, because we go at like, 9 or 10 at night, it was emptying out by then. So before you know it, we had the whole top floor of the bowling alley. The whole thing was filled up with just our friends. And then like Joey Ramone started showing up and Sebastian Bach started showing up and Jose Canseco used to show up and throw that bowling ball at like 300 miles an hour down the bowling alley. And it was like, before you know it, it was the scene. And then some other club promoter came in and was like, we should make this into a club. We'll call it rock and roll bowling and start charging people. And then we didn't want to go anymore because the whole point of us going was to get away from everybody. And then they invited everybody to where we were. So that ruined it for us. But yeah, we were the first people I know. I'm sure it existed, but we were the first people I know to turn down the lights so you couldn't see the pins anymore and to put like a disco ball in the bowling alley and to play loud metal.
There you go. So you're the reason all bowling sucks when you're not bowling tournaments. In my
world, there's a pretty popular bowling alley called Bowlmore in New York City,
Bowlmore?
right at in NYU.
Yep,
right there. Yep, that's where it started it all.
Such a horrible idea. So you're the one I gotta blame. So I can't even
fault.
go practice because they turn off the lights and disco this and that, and here I am, a serious competitor. Hey, that'd be like them taking you to base race and them just putting like a freaking head monitor, one of the headrest monitors out in front of your car for you to base race with. It's like, dude, in full sunlight. was like, yeah, how are you supposed to do anything with this? Oh, but it's fun. So
Blowing in the dark.
yeah. So no, I know
But
it's your
it's funny
fault.
because it got ruined for us too.
I know.
But what's really cool, if anybody cares, you probably don't. But if you go back and look at Rolling Stone magazine,
Yeah.
there's a Rolling Stone magazine with Sebastian Bach on the cover with his hands up,
Oh, yeah.
up in the air, like posing over his head. If you flip through that magazine, in the middle of that magazine is a full page picture of me holding a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Because what happened was Rolling Stone magazine came to New York and wanted to, Mark Seliger, who became very famous with the famous Nirvana interview. Mark Seliger, when he was nobody, came to New York and wanted to, I shouldn't say he was nobody, when he was up and coming, he came to New York and he wanted to do an article on the difference between the New York club scene and the LA club scene. So right when he got to New York, somebody said, "Oh, you should talk to Eddie," because I was a doorman in 6 of the hottest clubs in New York City, including Limelight, which they made movies about that club.
Yes,
It was
they
so
did.
hot. So Mark asked me if he could follow me around for a week and to get a feel of the New York club scene. So he would ask me like, "Oh, where's Tuesday night?" And then he'd come to Tuesday night with me and didn't just take pictures of me, but he'd take pictures of the crowd. And one thing we brought him to was our bowling, because it wasn't a club yet. It was still like a, if you know, bowling crowd. So he came with his camera and took a whole bunch of pictures of us bowling.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah. So hang out. I believe my wife actually has that Rolling Stone magazine with Sebastian
Cool.
Bach because she kind of likes him or something. Not anymore, I don't think. But
No, he's lost it a little bit.
yeah.
He's
So
not,
so did you ever see the one, the Super Group or whatever it was?
this a Rolling Stone. You mean the
No,
show?
the TV show. The
Yeah,
Super
yeah.
Group. Yeah.
I remember when they were doing it.
Yeah. So when they did that, and she saw Sebastian Bach in a more intimate setting, we'll say. Yeah, she kind of was disenchanted by him at that point.
Yeah, Supergroup. I forgot the singer that won Supergroup. The singer, I forgot his name. I was actually supposed to write with him for a while, but
From-
like literally 15 years ago.
From the supergroup?
Yeah, the guy
Okay,
who,
so you had the bass player from Anthrax.
right, Frankie.
Yep. Then you had, and he was married to the porn star, right? And then
No. Frankie
I thought-
was married.
I thought
Frankie
he was
married
one.
one of my friends.
Oh, I thought he was married to the porn star. Anyway, and then there was Ted Nugent,
Right.
right? Sebastian Bach, and then was it somebody from Van Halen? Was the other one?
I don't know, but wasn't that the show where I thought it was a group that auditioned for a singer and they called it Supergroup.
Oh no! This one was, it was Sebastian Bach, Ted Nugent, and the guy from
Right.
Was it Anthrax's bass? The guy
It
with
could have
the
been, but
with
Frankie-
the purple beard or pink beard
No,
or
that's
whatever.
Scotty Ian.
Oh yeah, Scotty Ian was
He's a
on it.
guitar player. It would make more sense because he's on more stuff than Frankie would be on, but
Okay.
I don't remember.
So he was on, and then I forgot who the drummer was. So, but yeah, that my wife watched that show, and it was like a day to day. They were trying to write an album together.
That's right. That's right. Because they
And-
had a band after that with Sebastian, Ted Nugent, Scotty
Correct.
Ian, some bass player and some drummer. I don't
Yep.
remember that aspect of it.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
Scott's a good guy. Good, very good guy.
Oh, so just so you guys know, so we go to we went to visit Eddie and Jules, and Eddie was talking to my wife and asked her, or so, hey, you like this music, whatever, and then he calls the lead singer. What band was it that she said she liked and she was
Well,
into?
I think I might have put her on the phone with Brett Scallions, who's the singer in Fuel, but I think I put her
Yeah.
on the phone with Rob Caggiano, who's the guitar player in Volbeat, because she loves Volbeat.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. It was the Volbeat. She's like, excuse me?
But Rob's my best friend. He's the best man at my wedding.
Yeah. So, see? And that's the life that my sister leads, and I was straight trailer trash out the biggest trailer park in the world. That's where I lived most of my life. So,
Well, your sister's much cooler than me. I mean, she's cooler than pretty much everyone. So
So they're gonna head down to Vegas. They're gonna meet me up in Vegas this weekend. So I'm gonna go bowl the big tournament, and they're gonna be down there too. So that'd be kind of cool.
Very cool.
We're gonna probably go hang out. Old man Dave would never get around to it. What the hell would you never get? Oh, that's what he said. So Justin asked, "Can we get a custom Team Send It theme song? How much that cost estimate?"
Well,
So
I
if
don't
somebody
make beats
wanted,
anymore. I don't
yeah.
make beats anymore.
So
I
if
sold
somebody
off my
wanted like a what, 1 minute, 1 minute theme song, what would you charge somebody to do that?
Who, me?
Yeah,
$1 million.
$1 million.
1 million gazillion.
I mean, I don't even know what I charge, honestly, because it's so difficult to say that because the stuff the stuff that I do airs. So it's like I'm also making royalties on it, performance royalties of big companies. Like, obviously the theme song might not have the reach of doing a Coca-Cola ad.
Right.
So I don't know. Those kind of situations, I just figure out, what your dream scenario is and work from there.
Okay.
Let's
It's
just
sort
say
of out of
you can't
my.
afford him, Justin.
Say again,
What's-
Dave.
Justin can't afford him. He's out here doing, commercials and doing movie and show scoring. That's
I do all kinds of stuff. It's just that usually to price something like that without really knowing what I'm doing, like whether it's airing or whether because then somebody asks you, like I did a mnemonic for a monster truck for Monster Jam. You know what Monster Jam is, right?
Yeah.
I did their mnemonic, and they didn't really tell me that it was going to be in every single Monster Jam ad, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're going to use it for social media here and there, and they didn't. So it's like it can get very tricky.
And then also, Justin, you have to ask him, do you want the rights to the song or do you want it to be
Exactly.
commercial? Like, so you just want to lease it, or something like that?
Or you want to own it. You want to rent the song,
Exactly.
you want to own it. Can I use it for other stuff? Is it custom? Is it vocals?
Exactly. It gets
But
into a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Tristan wants to know what board are you running?
Right now, I'm not running a board. Actually, my board is sitting in storage sideways. I'm doing everything in the box right now. I have a dangerous remote controller that I use as my center console. I had a heavily modified Yamaha O2R with Apogee converters in it. I've run Neves, SSLs. It's just nowadays, for what I do, having a board is actually a bad thing for multiple reasons. It's besides the price and the heat, it's like sitting inside an oven unless you have a machine room.
Yeah.
And the rate that I have to revisit things is crazy. Like I just did a trailer for Sonic 3 or Sonic whatever it was, the new Sonic movie.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog type Sonic?
Sonic the Hedgehog, yes.
Okay.
I just did one of their trailers. And for the internet trailer, TV trailer, it was a cover of Jingle Bells, Jingle Quills, and they kept changing words. So, and this is a choir of people singing Jingle Quills, Jingle Quills. And they'd have they'd use the word and they'd be like, corporate would be like, oh, can you change and to the? So I had to keep pulling up this song to change just small minor things. Like, could you imagine if I had to bring that back up on my board every time? Like I changed the thing in 10 minutes. If I had to find all the settings on the board, it would have taken me 2 hours to bring the song back up. So for me, having a board right now is more of a hindrance. That's why, my modified O2R is sitting in the closet. If anybody's looking to buy one, I have a great one.
Yeah, boards are kind of outdated now.
Yeah.
Everything with the computer power now, you have a board on your computer. You can just go
exactly.
there.
I mean, for live situations, people are still using soundboards.
Yeah.
But I just saw somebody recently at the Viper Room with their phone walking through the crowd, changing the levels of the mix in the Viper Room on their phone, actually in the crowd rather than in the position of a sound man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is actually a really good question here. Tiffany is asking, what car audio setups do you recommend for experiencing music the way the producer intends?
Oh, that's almost impossible to tell. I mean, you should just have whatever car stereo you feel sounds great for your needs. I mean, for you to hear it the way the producer intended, you'd have to be sitting in the studio with them, because that's about as close to possible as you're ever going to get to hearing what I'm hearing. Because every single car is going to be different, and people have different car stereos for different needs. I mean, if you listen to one type of music, your car stereo might be great. Like my wife's car stereo, she's got a Range Rover. You listen to hip hop in that thing, and it sounds unbelievable. But you put on like a metal record, I actually have to turn off the sub, because the sub is so boomy for metal that it actually hurts my ears and makes me need to turn it down, because that much sub isn't built into like a Metallica song. So it's like creating sub, and it's really messing up the music.
Right. So
Yeah, if you want to sound good in a car, go buy some studio monitors.
You could, but honestly, nowadays it's really crazy. This company called Slate, Steven Slate, he makes these headphones called VSX that are virtual headphones. You can actually model rooms. Okay, so if I get the headphone with the software, I can model some of the greatest mix rooms in the world, and I can model a whole bunch of cars. They offer car stereo, like the stock car stereo in like a Range Rover, and it models it in my headphones, and I can actually hear what it would sound like, I guess allegedly, in that situation.
Nice.
Justin says, it's easier to modify music on Adobe Audition. You can edit and shorten beats for like a 30-second commercial, because that's what he has his degree in.
Well, a lot of those programs, what I find with a lot of editors is that they don't have, for music, they don't have close to the amount of in-depth that I have. Plus, a lot of them, you can't even put tempos in. So these guys are editing more old school, like edit to edit, kick drum to kick drum, rather than me telling them, oh, the tempo of my TV show is, the tempo of my song for the TV show is 120, and you putting it into a grid and actually editing on the grid. That's why a lot of editors that use different, whatever it is, they're asking me to tighten up the edits, because they're editing by ear, not by grid.
Okay. And I'm sure there's people out there that are phenomenal at editing by ear, though.
Of course there are. There are people, not for nothing, but I'm good at it too. I mean, it's just that you have to have a good musicality sense, and a lot of production companies don't have a guy that realizes where the one is or where the beat is. Like, you ever watching a TV show and it sounds like the beat skipped on the music, and you're like, oh, that must be a mistake. It's not. It's because the editor doesn't realize that he edited the second beat of a measure on the third beat of a different measure. So you lose the progression, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But some editors are incredibly musical, and I can't even hear where they made the edits when I watch the TV show. Some of them I cringe.
Yeah. So I at one point I built a stereo in my car, in my Trans Am, that you can hear the drumsticks hit the edge of the drum, right? And if you have such a high quality stereo in your car, to me it became a hindrance, because now I'm hearing the extra breath, I'm hearing the drumsticks hit, I'm hearing the guy slap his guitar when he's hitting his strings, So it was, for me, it was a distraction.
You had too much detail.
Yeah, there was too much detail in it. When I finally started getting like a high level of being able to literally produce every frequency within my vehicle, right? So
what you did is like what they call ungluing the mix. Like you want to glue the mix together. You started ungluing the mix.
Well, I'm a technical kind of guy, so I like to deconstruct things as much.
Well, the
as
whole thing is
can.
that the person that was mixing it hopefully had a better setup than you did, maybe not. But the whole thing is that they might have, maybe what they were listening on actually wasn't as good as what you were listening on when they were mixing, and they couldn't hear those things and let them slide. And then all of a sudden you had to stare, or maybe you had something that was brighter or more mid-range or somewhere in that range that they didn't have, and that they could have benefited from a car print from you.
Yeah, but like I said, my car print would have been different. Oh,
yeah.
My wife finally popped on. She just got home. She says, "Hi, Eddie."
What's up?
So, all right. So, who would you say is maybe the one person that you met that like wowed you? I would say,
In what way?
just in the music world.
Oh, well, usually it's people I'm working with. Usually it's not someone I just shake their hand.
Okay.
But I made a record and Robbie Krieger played guitar on it, the guitar player from the Doors.
Oh, okay.
And I thought it was pretty amazing for a lot of reasons. First of all, I got to his house a little early because I was afraid that I was going to get lost going up in the hills. So I wanted to make sure I got there on time, and I didn't get lost. So I got there like 20 minutes early to the session at his house, and he saw me on the cameras. So he announced over his camera, he's like, "Hey, dude, why don't you just come in?" So here I am showing up at his house. So we're hanging out, and he starts showing me around his house. He showed me like he's got his swimming pool filled in the backyard, and it's a sand pit, and he uses it to practice chipping out of his swimming pool into his. And then he showed me all this old Doors memorabilia that was on his wall, and then was really cool is that he would tell stories about like Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison in the first person. Like one of our, somebody else was there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember I used to go to that restaurant with Jim. Yeah, that was his favorite place." And I'm like, "Oh my God, he's talking about Jim Morrison." Like it's like he's talking about legends that are his friends, and it was the most amazing experience. And then having him play a guitar solo and ask me what I thought and if it could be better and what we should do to improve it. So it's and people like him are the easiest people in the world to work with because he understands the process. He trusts the people he's working with. If he says to me, he plays a guitar solo, and I say, "Hey, this section could be a little better. Why don't we try this?" "Oh shit, let's try it." Never once was it like, "Yeah, no, I'm not doing that." Like guys like him are amazing in the studio. Yeah, I've been very fortunate to be in the studio with him. Lots of people like that. You know, Jada Pinkett. We made a record that Bruce Springsteen played on. You know, a lot of those super big people are the easiest people in the world to work with.
Okay.
It's all the people that haven't made it that are impossible.
And then so like have you ever had the opportunity to work with like Eric Clapton or
No.
Eddie Van Halen or somebody that is considered the premier of their genre?
The Anthrax record I produced, Dimebag Darrell played on it, and so did Roger Daltrey
Okay.
from the Who.
Yeah.
You know, I've never worked with Eddie Van Halen, never worked with Eric Clapton, you know, never been in the studio with any of those guys. Trying to think.
Did you watch that Beatles movie that or anthology or whatever they called it on HBO?
I haven't seen it yet. I'm dying to see it though.
So I was watching that, and the thing that really, really stood out is when Paul was playing the guitar, there was zero effort. That he was making the guitar do things that people at that time didn't do, and it would, you know, it was like it was an extension of his hand or his arm, right? And so do you have any people that you work with that are like that?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, my best friend, Rob Caggiano, he plays the guitar effortlessly. As a matter of fact, when I watch him play the guitar, I can't imagine that at one point in his life he couldn't play the guitar because he seems like he could always play the guitar. And then one time we're producing a band with a lefty guitar player and he picked up the guitar and he couldn't play it at all. And I was thinking to myself, that must have been what it was like when he was a kid and he picked up the guitar.
There you
go.
But
yeah, Charlie Benante from Anthrax, drummer, unbelievable, can do anything. I mean, I learned so many lessons from him producing Anthrax. I remember one time we're cutting a drum track and he missed the snare. And I'm like, "Oh, let's take that again. You missed the snare." He goes, "Dude," he goes, "that mistake I just made," he goes, "I could never replicate that no matter how hard I tried." He goes, "I can play that beat normal 1,000,000 times, but that mistake I could never do again. So why do you want to get rid of the thing I could never do again and switch it with something that I could do 100 times?"
Nice.
And I was like, wow, you just taught me a life lesson.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So we got about time for one more good story. Now, our stories are few and far between because, we just found out. I just found out that I had a half sister. What, 2 years ago now?
Yep.
And it was this time of year, and so they came down and visited us in Vegas. Um, do you have a story from that weekend in Vegas
I don't
that
remember.
you'd
To
like to
me,
share?
that was just it was just really cool because me knowing the other side of it. Ever since I've known Jules, she's always wondered what what the story was,
Mm-hmm.
if she had relatives or why things worked out the way they did. And we just put a major piece of the puzzle together yesterday, which I'll actually explain to you when I see you in Vegas.
Okay.
But very unexpected, completely out of the blue, put a major piece of the puzzle together. But to me, it was just fun. It was great meeting new people. And you got to understand, before my wife had kids, she never looked at anybody and saw her features in anybody.
Yeah.
She never looked at somebody and said, "Oh my God, that's my nose, that's my chin, that's my whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And I think with Doug, I think she felt like she saw the most features in you
Mm-hmm.
of herself that she's ever seen. And then, when we start looking at our kids when they were younger, like, "Oh my God," so that's the coolest thing about it. The things that I always took for granted my whole life, that, I had brothers and sisters that looked like me and my parents, and you could figure out. But for her, that's really the big story of that whole weekend. It was such an experience just watching her go through that. It was so emotional.
Um, yeah. So I just want to go through this real quick. So we met them. Went out to dinner. We watched they watched me bowl for a little bit. Um, and uh, my wife is a big fan of karaoke. So um, Eddie says, "Oh, we're in Vegas. I got a place to go for karaoke." So why don't you tell us what happened at that place, how it worked out, and your version of what happened?
Well, first of all, so we went to the karaoke, and there's a band, it's
Yeah.
live karaoke. And your daughter was the star of the whole show. Your daughter is a full out rock star. Full
Wow.
out rock star. So she got up on that stage and she sang like it was Madison Square Garden. She was getting the audience to join in, and she was like, "I can't hear you." Like, she's total rock star, great singer too.
Yeah.
So that was a great time. And then
Yeah.
it was funny because I went outside for a second because one of my friends wanted to introduce me to somebody who's in a band. I guess you'd have to be a metalhead, but there was a rock star named Dio, and he was in Sabbath for a while. But when he died, the people that were in Dio got a new singer. So he wanted to introduce me to the singer that replaced Dio in Dio. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to the guy, and he's like, "Oh, you sound like a New Yorker." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a New Yorker." He goes, "Yeah, I'm a New Yorker too." I was like, "Really? When were you there?" He's like, "In the '90s." I was like, "You ever go to Limelight?" He goes, "Yeah, I love Limelight, man. Eddie used to always let me in the VIP room." And I was like, "Do I look familiar to you at all?" He's like, "Oh my God, Eddie." So I reconnected with him, which
Mm-hmm.
was really cool because I hadn't seen him forever.
Yep.
And, we both look very different,
Mm-hmm.
so it was sort of random.
Yep.
But that was a fun thing that happened from that night as well.
Yeah. And then
And
the
then,
guy
yeah,
from Stranger Things started singing at the karaoke place.
exactly. That
Uh,
was fun.
all bunch of professional singers from all the clubs in Vegas were there showing up and singing. You
Yep,
know.
that's what they do. A lot of people, when they get out of their, like, Cirque du Soleil thing or Beatles tribute thing or whatever they're doing in Vegas, they
Mm-hmm.
go to this one karaoke bar because the the head of it, the piano player, whatever, knows everybody, and there's been a lot
Right.
of shows. So that's like one of those if you know karaoke bars where everybody who gets on stage is amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but his daughter was still better than everybody else.
Most of the people that have been around this show know my daughter pretty well. She used to help me run shows and whatnot. So yeah, she's pretty much. Justin asked, "How did I find out I had a half sister?" 23 and Me. All right, was it that or
Yep.
whatever? It's one of those DNA tests. She took one. I took one. she said she had a link, but she didn't want to contact the people that she linked with.
Right.
So, if you guys have ever done one, you get like today, I got 7 new links,
Wow.
and they're always your 7th cousin, right? It's somebody you could actually marry and not have any issues with. So, I mean, they're that far removed, right? It's all that. And so none of us ever looked at them. And my aunt one time decided, hey, you know what? I'm just going to look here real quick. And my aunt says, wait, I know all of my nieces and nephews. This isn't one of my nieces. And she got in contact with his wife, Jules. Then she gave me Jules's contact. We started texting and made a phone call. And within, 2 days or 3 days or whatever, she was in Vegas and I was in Vegas. And we were meeting the whole everything.
And what's crazy too is I don't remember if it was from your connection or the other side, but somebody they had a subscription to whatever it was. 23andMe.
That was Aunt Doris. So
and it was about to run out,
and
like the next day.
Yeah, it literally expired at the end of that day. So she's like, "Hey, let me look to see what I can." So
yeah, that was the last. That was it. I mean, if she had just let it expire, God knows what would have happened.
Yep. My wife would have never met you guys. Her most favorite people and everywhere. So, yeah.
Very cool. We love you guys too.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hang out in Vegas.
Yeah, my wife isn't going.
No, I know.
She said she'd rather spend the $600 on a chandelier than hang out with you guys. So,
hopefully it's a nice chandelier.
Dude. Oh, good Lord. Whatever. Yeah. She said she'd rather make her house nice. She just can't see spending the money when she's spending all this money on a brand new house that you guys will never go see. No, you know what? I actually think you guys will actually come visit us.
I'm sure we will. We'll come out there. I'm down.
I mean, Dave will never come and visit me, but
that's true.
So if my wife says stop it, she's house broke. So she house po right now. Yeah, we're paying for 2 houses right now. Yeah, we're paying for 2 houses right now, Dave. So yeah, that makes us house po.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I just wanted to do something a little different. I thought Eddie would be a nice little change. We've been doing this 5 years. We have somewhere close to 250 episodes, and we haven't had any producers on. Sometimes I do this for things that I enjoy too. I thought Dave would be a great addition just because Dave's done the producing thing, and he could speak some of the lingo that Eddie would. And like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed what we did here. Dave, you want to hit him with the question? It's a little different today, but why don't you hit him, Dave?
Yeah, typically we ask everybody we talk to what their definition of a bass hit is, but in your case, we'll ask you what your definition of an audiophile is.
I'd say an audiophile is anyone who enjoys high definition audio, someone who has ears that can tell the difference between different audio. There's so many people that, can't tell the difference between one system to the next. And there's some people that can tell the difference when you change the power cable.
Yeah.
So, you got everything in between. But, an audiophile is somebody who seeks out, a higher definition of sound, yep, in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Dave, why don't you share with him what your definition of a bass head is so he can kind of see how we feel about our community.
Smoking rock behind the dumpster in the back. No, that's different.
Different kind of bass head.
Bass head is a person that enjoys to be able to feel the music versus listening to it.
Oh, cool.
To be encompassed by loud bass being either boomy or windy, because there's different types of bass heads in the community. There's ones that like the wind. There's ones that like to be chest crushing. Yeah, there's some like to be ear piercing, depending on the frequency that they like to play.
Yep. And for me, a bass head would be, a lot of what Dave says. Well, according to Justin, it's someone who shows up, so Dave can't be him. Uh, um, anyway, for me, we call it bass therapy, right? It's no matter what's going on in the world, you can sit in a car, you play your system, whether it be bass or not bass, right? You play your system, and it separates you from the rest of the world.
So
And
that's the question. Bass or not bass? That is the question.
Yeah, exactly.
so, but like I said, for me, it's just somebody who enjoys the music and allows them it to separate that moment from all others. And I mean, I'm sure that's how you feel at concerts and stuff like that, you know?
Oh, totally.
So that's how we define our versions of bass heads. So, all right,
Very
Eddie,
cool.
where would somebody get a hold, see, follow you, whatever?
Probably the best place to get a hold of me is just find me on Facebook or Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually where most people contact me and, want to find out stuff or just friend me or, Eddie Wohl, WOHL. I'm on Facebook. My Facebook profile is a South Park meme. So if you see the South Park meme, that's me.
Okay. And like I said, eddiewohl.com, WOHL.
Yeah, I have an eddiewohl.com,
Yeah.
which is me too, but that I don't see messages there
Right.
as often.
But you can kind of get your resume from there.
Oh yeah, totally. You can get my resume from that, or you can if you just Google me. I mean, there's usually quite a few pages up there. There's all music with all my producer credits, and then
Hey, that's my line. You want to know who I am? Google me, bitch.
exactly, exactly.
I told that to a guy on a construction site one time. My guys always remember that. He's
When
like,
I first
who
met
are you?
Jules, when I first met Jules, we used to joke about who had more Google pages, me or her. For a while, I had more, but I think she broke a story on Brittany that I think she ended up getting more than me now. But I don't know. It's a good exercise. Maybe we'll do that later tonight. See which one of us has more Google pages.
Hey Eddie, you might want to go on your Facebook and update it because according to your website, it says 6-time Emmy winner.
Oh,
On
yeah.
your Facebook, it says 5-time.
Oh, it's weird. I thought I fixed that on Facebook. I'll go back and fix that. But what's an Emmy anyway? Who nobody cares. The only time anybody cared is when I had one of them. I had it on my shelf, and the Emmys were on. And one of my kids walked up and looked at the screen and looked at my Emmy and looked at the screen and goes, "You got one of those, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then my other kid came in the room and said, "Who's gonna get it when you die?" So I called up my production house. I was like, "Dude, I have to win a second Emmy." So
So
that's
then
the only
you just
time I ever
got
cared.
4 more, whatever.
Yeah, now I got enough to go around. I could just give them to everyone. Be like trick or treat. Be like Oprah, you get an Emmy. You get an Emmy.
Everybody gets an Emmy.
Everybody gets an Emmy.
All right. You got to take my wife one of these days. She wants to do one of those stupid red carpet things,
Well,
So-
red carpet would be more my wife more than me.
I know.
I stay inside all the time. I stay away from that stuff.
Yeah. So, all right, Dave, what you got going on?
Nothing. Going
Absolutely nothing. Well, for me, I'm setting up for Autorama. We got Jose Ramos. I'm trying to get him some stuff going on. So we got a ton of crap to do. Oh, my wife says no red carpet for her, just the awards show. Like I said, right along lines with you, Eddie.
We'll go to the Grammys next year.
Yeah, tell her she'll go. She loves that crap.
I just got to put in for the ticket. I mean, I always get offered the tickets every year.
Yeah. So my buddy Jeffrey, who's my normal co-host out here, he's usually a seat filler for that event. So,
Nice.
being the actor person he is. Like I said, Autorama coming up May 3rd and 4th. May 3rd will be the 2X DB Drag, 3X Iasca. And then Sunday will be the 3X DB Drag and then the Iasca sound quality off-site. But remember, come on out here, have a good time. It'll be a 5X weekend, get you a good chance to get your points for World Finals. Also, we have Jose Ramos coming back. Hopefully he's going to be putting together a bunch of shows. I'm trying to help him put those together. We have Jeffrey coming back. We're going to be off next week because I'll be in Vegas doing my bowling, trying to make some dollars. Obviously, that's a joke if you're the IRS listening or watching. So, yeah, I'm be out in Vegas this weekend. And then and I'll be there through Tuesday. We'll be back the following week. We're going to change our times to 6:30 p.m. start, and that'll allow Jeffrey back on here. So we'll be starting at 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. California time, the only time that does matter, obviously. So we'll be moving to that time just to help the whole thing out with Jeffrey getting him back. Anyway, I would appreciate you guys tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors once again. We have Bass, Badass Sounds by Steve Bass out of Texas, along with E-Box Design and Install. Them out of Texas also. Hopefully he's going to come and show up at Autorama, and he's going to try and get a chance to beat the boss. Not that he's going to do it, but you don't get the opportunity unless you beat everybody else first. I am Mike Tyson and Mike Tyson Super Punch Out. So you don't just automatically get a skip to the top. You have to earn your way up there.
Well, I definitely beat you, and I got to see the credits roll after, so.
You got lucky. So anyway, guys, hey, I wanted to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Eddie. Thank you, Dave, for hanging out. Eddie, hang on for a second after we get off here, but I want to thank you guys every time. We will see you guys next week on This Week in Car Audio, 6:30 next week, starting 6:30 p.m. California time, the only time that matters. We'll see you guys next week, or 2 weeks. Peace. We out.